Hey guys, this is Sean from SeanAther.com, and today we are going to have the benchmarking test of Mlais M4 Note smartphone. So first of all, let me tell you about the device. That it comes with a 64-bit 1.5 GHz quad-core processor with 2 GB of RAM. It is having Mali T760 GPU, and the screen is 5.5 inches in size and 720p HD in resolution. So let's perform few of the popular benchmarking tests and let's see how much score our Mlais M4 Note is going to get in those tests. So let's start it now. First of all, we are having the Antutu benchmarking test. Here we are having the Geekbench 3, the GFX benchmarking, Basemark OS II here, and what else we got is Quadrant standard. So we have already performed the Antutu benchmarking test, the Basemark OS II test, and the GFXBench GL test, because these tests are very time consuming. So just to save your time, we have already performed them. We will have a look on the scores directly, and rest of the test we will perform right in front of you. So let's start with the Antutu benchmarking, and here is the result of the Antutu benchmarking test on our Mlais M4 Note. You can see it's a 64-bit device and scored 34,073, which is really very impressive because it's a quad-core device. It's not even an octa-core processor. And if we go to the ranking details, we can see that it scored right next to the LG G3, which is having the so-called better Qualcomm Snapdragon processor. So as you can see, it's pretty good. The performance of our Mlais M4 Note is really very nice on Antutu benchmarking. Here you can see rest of the specs of the device, that it is having a 64-bit processor, Android 5.0 OS, the Mali T760 GPU, as I've already said, 720p HD screen, 13.3 megapixel primary camera, 2 GB of RAM, 16 GB internal memory, and 64-bit processor once again, and the same details which I have already told you. So let's exit Antutu benchmarking and have a look on Basemark OS II here. So here is the result, and you can see that overall score of our Mlais M4 Note in Basemark OS II benchmarking test is 834. For the system test, it is scored 1496, and for memory read write it was 1047. For graphics 415, which is pretty low if you have a look on rest of the scores, and for the web browsing it's 745. So you should be getting the idea that graphics quality is not so great on Mlais M4 Note, because the test result, that's what it's showing, the test result. But we are having the GFX benchmarking test as well, which is all about the graphics. So let's have a look on the result of this test, and you will get the better idea that how good is the graphics going to be on Mlais M4 Note. So it's opening right now. It's a very time consuming heavy test, so that's why we have performed earlier, but you can see it's taking time in opening as well. So it's synchronizing files from our previous test, so it's over. And let's have a look on the results here, because we have already performed this. So here is the result and the score for each of the tests. Actually, GFX benchmarking test is pretty complicated. It performs lots of tests. It is having its own name, like Manhattan test, which shows the background of Manhattan, and the T-Rex where a dinosaur comes. So these are the score, as you can see here, 527 frames per second and everything. But you will not get the exact idea just by looking at the score. So let's compare the score, and here you will see the score of our Mlais M4 Note with respect to few of the popular handset for each of the tests. For example, for Manhattan test, you can see our device Mlais M4 Note is having 527, while Apple iPhone 6 scored nearly 4 times more. That's 2080. Even Apple iPhone 5s scored 774. It's pretty good. It's much better than our Mlais M4 Note. Let's have a look on the rest of the score. For 1080p Manhattan score, you can see our device scored very less. That's 264 frames only with respect to the rest of the devices. That's Nvidia Tegra um, tablet and Nvidia Shield tablet, Google Nexus 9. One of the reasons is that this device is having only 720p HD screen. So when we are performing a 1080p graphics test, obviously it's going to score very less. Let's have a look on T-Rex. For once again, T-Rex, its score is pretty less, nearly one-third of the rest of the popular devices like Apple iPhone 6. And here is the T-Rex 1080p, I think. Yes, sorry. And you can see that once again for 1080p graphics test, the score was really very less, just 629 with respect to iPad Air 2, which scored nearly 4000. So also Xiaomi Mi Pad is around 3000 frames, so you should be getting the idea that graphics performance of our Mlais M4 Note is not that great. So let's leave the score because we can see that it's pretty bad with respect to all of these devices, especially in the 1080p graphics test. As you can see, it's just scored 1000, where rest of the devices are scoring 15,000 plus. So let's go back and let's perform the Geekbench 3 test right in front of you. So around 40% of the test is finished now. And once the Geekbench 3 test is over, we will get the scores and we will have a look and we will compare the score with the rest of the devices to get the better idea that how good our Mlais M4 Note is. So the test is about to be over. So here we go. Here is the score. So for the single core performance, our Mlais M4 Note scored 726, and for the multi-core it's 2160. Here you will find information about the system, like what you got, like the processor and the RAM, and here is the detailed score for each of the tests. But let's go to single core section and to get the better idea that we can compare the result with the rest of the devices. For example, our device scored 726, but if you have a look on rest of the devices here, you can see Samsung Galaxy S5 scored 938. Let's go down, and LG Nexus 5 scored 860 and Motorola Moto X 669. So our device is going to perform between these two devices when it's single core performance, when we're talking about the single core performance. But let's go to the multi-core and let's have a look here, because our device is a multi-core device. So here you can see that Mlais M4 Note is performing pretty good here. It's with respect to the Qualcomm Snapdragon 801 processor of Samsung Galaxy S5, it is having 2160 score, where Galaxy S5 scored 2836. And if we have a look here, you can see once again that our device is in between LG Nexus 5 and Galaxy S4. Galaxy S4 scored 1835 and LG Nexus 5 scored 2538. So overall in this test, our Mlais M4 Note is performing pretty good. It's not so great, but it's still, considering the specs that it is having only a quad-core processor, so it's pretty good. So let's go back and perform our next text, which is going to be Quadrant standard here, and here we go. So as you can see, Quadrant standard is going to take the memory input read write speed, the 2D graphics and the 3D graphics test, and everything. You can see here the FPS our device is getting is around 60. It's fluctuating between 50 and 60 here. Once again, the FPS we are getting in this graphics test is around 50 and 60. Here it's a bit less, it's around 35. And the test is over. Okay, here we go. So here is the result of the test that our device scored 11,682. It's comparing the Mlais M4 Note with a few of the older devices like HTC One X and Asus Transformer Prime, Motorola Atrix 4G, which are old devices. But if you know about those devices, you can see that the Mlais M4 Note is scoring pretty good with respect to them. Like HTC One X, it's more than twice. So if you know about these devices, you can get the idea that how good is Mlais M4 Note is going to be. So considering all these benchmarking tests and the result, we can assume that the overall performance of Mlais M4 Note is going to be pretty good for multitasking, read-write speed. Overall performance is going to be a good one, but when it comes to graphics, it won't be that good, because in two of our tests, which are the Basemark OS II and the GFXBench, which is especially dedicated for the graphics, the result was not good, and you can say it was pretty bad with respect to some other high-end devices. But other than that, our Mlais M4 Note performed pretty good. So that's all for now, friends. Thanks for watching the video, and do not forget to subscribe the channel for more videos, tips and tricks, and hands-on reviews like this. Have a nice day.